Hello traders, this is Rich from tradesight. This is a look at the market leading stocks via our proprietary scans for the coming session. This is going to be for Friday, March 28th, 2014. You'll see not a lot of signals today, even though we do have a little bit of movement, but we're essentially more or less pretty well contained as far as the ranges go. So we're not really getting any real signal development here. The only thing we have here in the NASDAQ patch is we're setting up with a contra candle right now in Wynn Resorts. That does have a volume bump. Notice here that there are a number of volume bumps. They're probably ones that are going to be worth watching tomorrow. We've got the volume bump in Netflix. We've also got one in BlackBerry, and that one's got an open-close deviation to go with it. Got a volume bump in Google, Broadcom, Baidu, and Amazon. Amazon's still pretty weak today. First Solar does have a volume bump, but that one they're buying aggressively here into the close. It does have a VWAP deviation. It's 2% above the day's VWAP right now. And we're also getting a VWAP deviation in Sinus, so they're definitely trimming their shorts in those names. Financials is the one spot where we're seeing a little weakness. We've got a fair amount of downside CPS conditions. A lot of volume in Citigroup following on with the news. That one does have a downside CPS, but the range is, all things considered, fairly narrow today. Wells Fargo setting up with a contra candle. It's up on the day, but below the day's open, and that one's also trading some pretty good volume. Visa, on the other hand, on the buy side, setting up with a upside contra candle. Moving on to the energy names. A couple upside CPS conditions. We've got one in Devon and also one in Chevron. The Devon's got some fairly decent volume and is 1% above the day's open. PBR is having a big day here, not quite 5% above the day's open on increased volume. Valero getting hit pretty hard today. That one has a downside CPS condition. Note the open-close deviation. That one's really weak today. Moving on to the generals, not a lot of signals here. We've got a downside CPS and IBM. That one's pretty weak in trading. Fairly good volume relative to its peers here in this particular sector, if you will, which is fairly weak. Dow Chemical trading above average volume. That one's trading more than 2% below the day's open. That one's real weak too. John Deere, skinny range so far today, but that one does have an upside contra candle. Moving on to the housing names, absence of symbols, not a lot of movement here. Hovnanian's got a little bit of movement versus the open, but that's a real low price stock, so it's not hard to do that. We've got an upside contra candle setting up in FedEx. Moving on to the commodities, good volume in AA, and that one's about 3.5% above the day's open, so that's pretty spiffy day there. ACH has a contra candle to the upside, and Newmont and U.S. Steel both have upside RPS conditions in place. All right, folks, as always, thanks for listening. This has been Rich for tradesight.